This is part 3 of our fabric tutorial. This part will be adding the glitter to the top and the bottom, and we'll be using clown fishing from our glitter company, Glitter Zoo. It's a gorgeous orange opal chunky mix. So that's what we'll be using for the trimming on this tumbler. All right, so let's get started. We're gonna need painter's tape again. We have my epoxy that I already mixed and a glove. So take your piece of painter's tape and run it along the trimming that we did in part 2. This part, you wanna make sure that your Mod Podge is already dried from part 2 that we did. So you just match it right up to where you cut your seam. And you just do that for all around the tumbler until you meet at the other end. And you can rip the excess off. Make sure you have a really nice seal with the tape around. I like to add just an extra piece so I don't really get glitter on the fabric. This doesn't need to be neatly placed, it's just a double layer that I like to use. Okay, so we did the bottom. Now we're gonna add painter's tape to the top. And just do the same exact thing. Line it up with where you trimmed your fabric and go around the entire tumbler. Just meeting the tape with where you trimmed. And when applying glitter, you can either use Mod Podge or Epoxy. I like to use Epoxy, but it doesn't really matter. I'm gonna add my second piece just to make sure we don't get glitter on the fabric. All right. Make sure it's all nice and sealed up at the top and at the bottom. This is when I'll take a foam and my PVC pipe, just because it's easier to glitter that way. Okay, so this is what it's gonna look like before you add your glitter. Now I'm gonna take some of my epoxy and just spread it on. Thin coat. I probably mixed a lot more than I should, but that's okay. I'll just throw the extra in a mold. Make sure you get close to that seam line in here. Thin coat all around. Make sure you get the rim. Now you can move on to the bottom. Make sure you get on all the little indents of the tumbler on the bottom. And just go around just like we did the top. Make sure you're coated evenly everywhere. And this is when the fun starts. Now, take your glitter. I'm using clown fishing again from our glitter company, Glitter Zoo. And just go around the whole tumbler. Just make sure you coat it really well. I'm just going over and over to make sure, since I am using a chunky glitter, that I get all the spots. Now tap, tap, tap to get the extra off. Now we're gonna move on to the bottom. Make sure you're coating it well with the glitter so you don't see any of the spray paint through. And just keep adding glitter. Since it is chunky, I want to add a little more just to make sure the epoxy soaks it up and it doesn't shift when I set it up to dry. Tap it off, the extra glitter. Now this is the time you want to take off your tape. You don't want to wait for the Mod Podge or the epoxy to dry. That's how you get the nice, crisp, get some of that glitter I got off. Okay. Now that we got that piece off, we're going to move on to this one. Now we'll take off this one. Take off the final piece of tape. The next step will be to seal it really well with the spray sealer. And then it's ready for epoxy.